Welcome to Conversations with Dr. Stephen Greer. It's brought to you by the World Puja Network, and I'd like to thank the people at the World Puja Network for hosting us every 2 weeks on their show, and they're very generous to allow us to have this conversation each week, every other week. And today we're joined by Dr. Ted Loder, who's the science advisor for the Orion Project. And
good afternoon, Steve.
And thank you for joining us, Ted, today. We're going to be talking about today some of the really wonderful developments that have occurred with an inventor team that we have here in the United States that we're funding, but also about some of the harassment and suppression things that have begun already with that team and what you can do to help protect us and help protect these inventors from this sort of shadowy and criminal activity of harassment that has gone on. And so I think we want to be able to focus on this because we need to have people not only saying prayers for protection for this team and for all of us, but also we have a system set up at the orionproject.org where you can fax to the President of the United States and your congressional representatives a letter where you can tell them about this issue and maybe mention the fact that a number of these sorts of inventors have been historically and are up to the present day being threatened and harassed by some shadowy groups that are tied to paramilitary and governmental groups as well as corporate groups. Who exactly they work for is a very long story, but it's certainly criminal activity. So, and in fact, Dr. Loder has reviewed over a 150-page document that was done by a researcher where he'd put together a historical overview of people with amazing breakthroughs in energy generation that would move us away from destroying the planet with oil and gas and coal, and the kinds of suppression and harassment that has happened to them. And I think it'd be very good, Ted, for you to just briefly review what some of that information that's in there that you've learned about.
Actually, it's only 129 pages, so.
All right.
But it's a massive document put together by Gary Vesperman. It's on the web. You can look up the article. It's called Energy Suppression Cases.
It's actually on our website, the orionproject.org.
And it just goes through just dozens and dozens and dozens of various cases with naming names and what happened to various people. There's a certain similarity to many of the cases, the way people have been suppressed, the usual sort of threats, initial threats, promises to buy somebody out, and then just general hassle initially, breaking into people's labs, breaking into doors of the place, sometimes disturbing things, sometimes just letting the person know that, hey, we can break into your place anytime, and there we are. So it's a very interesting document, and you read this thing, you just end up just shaking your head at the end of it. One of the things that he has in there, which I found rather interesting, is the text of a generic patent secrecy order. Now, this comes out of sections 181 to 188 of the United States Patent Code under Title 35 United States Code, actually from early in the 50s. But it's still in case, and it's still in place, I should say. And this is a generic patent secrecy order, but it basically states the following. So if you are an inventor working on one of these technologies and you try to patent something, this may or may not have anything to do with the suppression attempts from people breaking into your place. But, for example, you might get this notice saying, you are hereby, I'll just read the first paragraph to give a sense of it. You're hereby notified that your application, as above identified, has been found to contain subject matter, the unauthorized disclosure of which might be detrimental to the national security. And you're ordered in no wise to publish or disclose the invention or any material information with respect thereto, including hitherto unpublished details of the subject matter of said application, obviously written by a lawyer, in any way to any person not cognizant of the invention prior to the date of the order, including blah, 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 without written consent first obtained by the Commissioner of Patents under penalties, and then it lists all the penalties. Oh boy, and it just sort of goes on and on.
And the whole point of this too is I know people personally who have received these orders, and in fact, one of the men that we're working with that we'd hoped in November would be freed from some of the projects he's connected to in the intelligence community. He was initially thought he would be able to, and all of his inventions had been hit with this kind of order. It was really rather disturbing, and his intelligence handlers had said, well, we're really going to let you go ahead and do the things that just generate energy, just stay out of the anti-gravity and the propulsion area. And then it turned out that he was threatened even from doing that by some people who are outside of his immediate handlers, or shepherds as they call them in the intelligence community. And he was prohibited from helping us do this. And so, that's what's very disturbing. So, and this has happened over the last 100 years, probably several thousand times. I mean, we have someone who worked in the patent office, for example, who said that there's somewhere upwards of 4,000 devices and patents that have had this Section 181 through 188 used against them to suppress them. So, on the one hand, we have governmental leaders like the current president saying we want a new energy economy and alternative energy. On the other hand, you have these shadowy entities that have corrupted the governmental power structure in the national security state, going around clobbering these guys who are in laboratories and trying to do things to help the world. That's all. These are scientists, not people who care about power per se. They're just the scientists who have come up with great inventions.
By the way, in that same article, Gary Vestman continues on and states, and this is where it gets really just scary for the inventor, the harsh punishment for the violation of this secrecy order should an inventor exploit or even simply discuss his or her invention, which is classified by a patent secrecy order, is 20 years in federal prison. In effect, the U.S. government, or its agencies, I should say, it's not clear who is who here, in effect, the U.S. government brutally and suddenly orders unlucky energy inventors to keep absolutely quiet and not to do any more work on their inventions without compensation for their well-meaning efforts. Thus, a shocked, intellectually shackled and frustrated inventor would end up losing everything he or she has invested in his or her invention. The public is also ruthlessly denied any benefits from the invention. So that's the present status of that sort of issue, and it has been used thousands of times, apparently thousands of times.
Yep, it has, absolutely. And then the other way that it's done is, for example, let's cut right to the chase, those of you who are on our mailing list. And by the way, you can get on the OrionProject.org, has a way for you to sign up for free email updates and newsletters there. And I suggest that everyone listening who has a concern about the environment and energy and these sort of issues to do so. Is that we just sent out this week, I wrote a little summary about what has happened to this incredible team of people that we are now funding here in the United States. It's a team of 4 people that are working to build a electromagnetic collector system that will collect the electromagnetic field energy that's in the space around us, that's in the atmosphere around us, and they're looking at possibly having a 30 to 70 kilowatt system which would run any large home quite nicely. And they're working on this. We are funding it. Your contributions to the Orion Project are funding it. But as soon as this team assembled and began to set up their shop and their laboratory, which we are funding a very modest workspace and equipment, luckily the inventor and the other people he's working with had a lot of the machining equipment and what have you, so we did not have to front end those costs because those are very expensive machines. But they immediately started having surveillance at their homes, and one of them has a child and a wife, and the other one has a significant other that he lives with. And neighbors came out and found these men out in front of both of their homes, photographing their homes, photographing their property, and sneaking around. And when one neighbor ran out to the main inventor house where this shadowy